We beat Curse for 3rd place, and we should be able to beat him again pretty easily.
Cop and Edward doesn't have much synergy yet.
We just have to be aware of St. Vicious, and that's about it.
Welcome back to opening day of the 2013 Summer Split. And before we get into our next game between Curse and Vulcan, I'd like to welcome Team Solo Mid's Reginald to the desk. Reggie, congrats on the game.
You guys.
28-0, man. That's what we're going to see?
I mean, that's kind of too unrealistic, but I want to have a better record than last season for sure. I'm probably aiming for like 25-3. More realistic goal, but 28-0 would be nice.
Absolutely.
It would be a little nice. And I want to talk a bit just about the Team Coast team you guys just faced, because near the end of last season, both Team Coast and Vulcan made a run through the playoffs. Do you think those teams are now stronger, or was that kind of a lucky run through the playoffs?
I really feel like it was a huge lucky run through the playoffs, mainly because when it hit playoff times, right, Dig and Curse was totally underperforming, and they didn't play nearly as well. CLG was never in good shape last season, so we're going to see a lot more from them this season with their roster change. And so I feel like Coast isn't going to do too well this season. I feel like they're going to probably be bottom 4 again, and it might not lead to a good playoffs like last season.
Right. As champions of last season, obviously coming into this one, you guys did work. You've worked on skill. What was it that you guys, have fixed or changed that in your eyes still needed to be fixed as champions?
I mean, a lot of it is really just a good practice schedule. We're always trying to better our practice schedule. And it's something that we're always changing, mainly because you're going to be as good as how you practice. If you work hard, you're going to perform better. So we're always trying to work harder, and we're always trying to put more strategy and more time into the game. So we're getting really good with having a better structure. Like a lot of interviews, if you see the Koreans, they're like, NA lacks structure. We're really working on that, and we're trying to really get good so we can compete on the international level.
And I mean, speaking of the international level, Dyrus and X Special, 2 of your teammates, went to the All-Star game a couple of weeks ago. What was the impact of that like for your team, having those guys get in the All-Star game experience?
I feel like X Special is definitely a lot more vocal than before. He's definitely talking a lot more, so which is really good for me, mainly because a lot of the times when we do strategy or do anything at all, it would only be me doing all the picks and doing all the calls and everything, and it's a lot of work. And now he's really stepping up to the line. He's getting a lot more involved, and he's becoming a lot more vocal. Aside from that, I don't think they picked up anything else from the All-Stars.
So, I mean, what else have you guys been doing over the break then? Because it's been 4 to 6 weeks since we've actually seen you guys competing.
Yeah, so Turtle, when everyone was gone for All-Stars, right? So Turtle played like 500 games. So he got rank 1, rank 2, rank 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I took a quick break. I took a 2 weeks break. And then Dyrus and Special, obviously, All-Stars, they were playing the whole entire time. Autumn went to Hawaii. So we got back like 2 or 3 weeks before LCS, and we're like, all right, guys, we can't let that vacation hurt us, and we've been practicing nonstop since, every day as much as possible. So we're looking pretty good in scrims right now. We're doing really well. We scrimmed pretty much every single team. I think that C9 is actually going to do really well this season. We played a lot against them, and they're probably the hardest games that we've ever had in the scrim. So I think they're going to do really well.
Right on. So going back to the match a little bit, obviously you guys getting your first win here opening day of the Summer Split. What were your expectations for the matchup? And did you guys come in playing anything out of the ordinary, or did you just go for comfort?
We mainly picked strong picks that are strong in solo queue because we haven't played the game in so long, right? And patches changed everything. Like the next patch, creeps aren't going to spawn till 155. This is such a huge change. So things are always changing with League of Legends. That's why the game's so interesting. It's so fun. League of Legends is so fun because there's Riot's always changing the game up, keeping it interesting and keeping it more competitive. So that's what I really like, that there's something always new into the game. So I mean, it's always a constant learning process, and I just like the play style of like the new style of like where NA is all about farming, right? You watch screens, towers go down in like a second. You go into the game, 3 towers down. So NA is really adapting to that, where we're really pushing more for objectives and like going out of our way for kills, and so we're doing a lot better at that.
Cool. And it's okay if you don't want to answer this question, but I'm curious because you just mentioned it. The 3.8 patch change with the jungle spawning at 155. Do you think there's going to be any immediate impacts as far as like starting lanes, or do you want to keep that secret?
Yeah, I think that it's pretty obvious, but I think that the AD is probably going to show up in lane, and I was talking with my team, and they think that the support's going to be a lot more roaming, a lot more invades. But there's no huge loss for invading before, right? If you invade and you don't like have a successful invade, their AD and support is gonna have double golems, and they're gonna have a huge advantage. But now there's no penalty for having invade, besides someone at the lane pushing up the lane really fast, so it's not that bad. So there's going to be a lot of that. I feel bad for Jungle. Otto's already crying. He's like, no, my extra camp, no, why, right? He's so sad, but everyone's like, yes. And the bottom lane's a lot more happy because there's no huge advantage on the blue side anymore. So a bot lane can go anywhere. So that's huge.
Interesting.
Taking that in consideration, how much do you guys, or do you know of teams, you theory craft when you know something will change like that? How much thought do you put into it before it actually comes out, and tournaments that you're playing currently?
So, I mean, LCS is so fast-paced, right? You always have to constantly learn as you go. One of the things we try to do is really focus on the present. Like, we had LCS this week, but the patches next week. We're like, guys, let's just keep all of our time on this LCS week. So we play 1 week at a time. I know that in the future, though, we'd want to improve that process and be like, hey, okay, this patch is coming out. We should strategize for this, and this, and strategize for everything ahead of time. But since the schedule's so fast-paced and it's so competitive for us that we really have to focus on the present, because if we don't focus too much on the present, we might lose and do bad super weak.
Yeah.
And obviously last split, you guys had kind of a slow start and then finished super strong. Looking back now that you've kind of had the 6 weeks off, are you going to approach this season week to week any differently, aside from what you just said on taking it week to week?
So last season we didn't do too well because there were a lot of problems with our team, but we managed to fix that and come together. I think that this week we're obviously going to try our best every single match, and if teams happen to just be better than us, then they're going to be better than us, but we're always going to try really hard every single match, and that's not going to change.
Right on. All right, so last question for you before we move on to all of our next games. What is your feeling on, the teams coming in? Who scares you the most coming into the split that people may not be thinking about? I
probably think that C9's really strong. I think the velocity is, they're okay. They have a lot to prove. Okay. And C9 does have a lot to prove too, because there's a lot of hype around them. But it doesn't really matter how well you do in scrims if you do bad in an LCS match. Like say CLG for example, they crushed us in scrims 20-0 last season. Yeah. And then they just couldn't perform at LCS. So same thing with C9. They do really well. They do really, really well in scrims. I don't think they've lost anything yet since they made their team in amateur, so they've won everything up till now. So they have a lot to show. Even there's so much hype around them, and I think they just beat everyone in scrims. We scrimmed them prior to this, and they did really well against us too. So I'm excited to play them.
All right,
it's gonna be a good match.
All right, Reginald, thank you very much. Congrats on the first match and the opening day win. I'll see you in I believe a few games. Thanks. And now it's time for our second matchup of the day, Curse versus Vulcan. And last time these teams played, Vulcan upset Curse in the spring playoffs, third-place game. But since there's been one huge change to Curse's starting lineup, their new support, Edward.
And Edward and Cop really haven't had that much time to practice together. Edward only made his trip over to the Curse house and now LA last week. And when Edward left Gambit, he said it was because he didn't mesh with Cop, both just in personality and with gameplay style. Yep. And if anything, Cop is kind of the NA version of Genja with his playstyle. So we really need to track how Cop and Edward do together and how they mesh.
Well, the Reddit threads have been saying they've been doing good.
There was that one awesome clip where Cop was like, I'm just going to farm the lane as Draven. And I think he was against Robert X. Sleeves. Like, why is Cop in? Oh, it's because Edward's in the brush with Blitzcrank. Oh, no.
That's Edward. And Vulcan knows what a new support can do for a team. Their pickup of Bloodwater near the end of the spring split helped turn their season around and led to a third-place finish in the North American LCS.
And we've talked about this so many times, but the whole team started playing better after they picked up Bloodwater. Big thing, though, Mandatory Cloud really picked up his game, Man Cloud, at the end of the year. And Vulcan's another team that finished last season really hot. They took third place in the playoffs, but they're not getting respect coming into the summer split. Even Reginald just now thinks that was mainly a run because the top teams were falling apart. And we'll see if Vulcan can continue building on their playoff success during this summer split, or if that was just a matter of them getting hot at the right time.
Well, we will have to see. They're about to prove it to us. So let's take a look at the starting lineups. On the blue side, it's Curse. In the top lane is Voidboy. Jungling is Saint Vicious. Jackie in mid. Cop on 80 carry. And Edward, now North America, at support.
And on the red side, it's Vulcan with Psychos in the top lane, X-Smithy in jungle, ManCloud in mid, Zuna with his new Mohawk on 80 carry, and Bloodwater, of course, on support.
We're going to get a good look at that Mohawk for the next 10 weeks.
Yeah, I was trying to tell Bloodwater that he needs one as well, but I don't think he was buying it.
Yeah, there's rooms that they all kind of sit in. They chat, little player green rooms. We go, you guys all need to get Mohawks just pointing in different directions. Yeah. And I think Bloodwater's was supposed to be a front-to-back diagonal.
That would work.
That would so work. I guess if it's front to back, it'd also be back to forward. So I guess it doesn't matter which way it goes.
It's kind of like how Reginald had never played against Shifter, and also Shifter never played against Reginald. So crazy stuff.
Double stuff everywhere. And it's going to be the second matchup. A lot of twos coming in here. We'll have to see what happens. There's 2 of us. There's a lot of you. And I got to say thanks for joining us here, as it is the opening day to the North American Summer Split. Curse on your screen as they are getting ready to face off against Vulcan. These 2 teams did pretty well for themselves last season. Vulcan kind of had to scratch at it a little bit to get back in, but like we've been saying, being one of those teams at the end of the season, now considered to be one of the bottoms again. Like the community perception, the perception all around, it's weird.
And speaking of the community perception, a lot of people are on the Edward hype train right now.
This is a true story as well.
Edward joining Curse. We got to remember here that Edward's had a couple of days practicing with Cobb.
Yep.
He is still going to be a little bit jet lagged. Even when they were practicing, was very tired. The trip from where he lived in Russia to Las Vegas was not easy. I think they said like 34 hours of travel. That takes its toll, and it takes like a week or 2 to fully adjust for that.
That's why Jackie needed to know if he was there.
On top of having to play with Cobb. Yeah, that's why Jackie's like, is Edward here? He needs to sleep.
Yeah.
Damn it, Jackie!
There he is. He can't even hear us, but he knows. He knows. So there's Jackie getting ready to play. I don't even know mid. He did start to show a little bit of Kazakhs at the end of the season, so we'll have to see if he brings out some strengths again like that. But
Curse has been a tough book to read throughout this.
Yeah.
A lot of people have just kind of been forgetting about them. A lot of people were actually writing them off when they didn't really have a permanent solution for their support role. They were saying, hey, Cop, think of how weak that lane's going to be now. People kind of wrote off Cop near the end of the season as not being a very good AD carry. But what Curse believes is that he wasn't a good AD carry because he falls into place with the rest of his support. So if his support plays passive, Cop will play passive. He thinks he's a very moldable AD carry, and the rest of Curse does. So as these weeks progress, we'll see if Curse Edward can mold him into an aggressive AD carry.
I feel like Curse Edward is more of like a tandem bicycle than like a support, just kind of riding on the side.
All right.
They're both working on this.
They're both just full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead, absolutely. We're going to have to see what they have as we go full steam ahead into Champion Select for Game 2 here, opening week of the Super Week here in Summer Split.
Oh, yeah. And a Lee Sin ban. It's targeted at Xmithy, but it's still a little bit surprising. Lee Sin saw a resurgence at the All-Star game with the insect mechanics, ward kicking people backwards over and over again. Xmithy, he's no insect, but it's still enough to draw the ban.
It brings in so much utility in the late game, which sounds weird. It's like shields everywhere, jumping here and there, and it's confusion. You never thought confusion would be such a huge, powerful thing to have in a fight.
It's what Lee Sin brings. Kazakh's ban, so he won't get to see any super farm Kazakhs as well.
Yeah.
Blitzcrank ban against Edward. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually banned Thresh as well. You already know Edward is against the wall here, and you're going to try to throw him off as much as possible. I'm actually very surprised that Curse is the ones who banned Thresh. It tells me they have a much different first pick in mind.
Vulcan, they may have been thrown off by that as well.
Yeah. They're like, what? Why did they ban Thresh, guys? What do they have in mind?
We don't have notes for this one.
And
so,
I'm kind of curious, too. What do they have in mind?
So they go ahead and they get a pretty safe pick there, or ban, I should say there.
Jarvan, maybe? Jace, of course. Of course, all the Jace bans that we've been seeing. He was so dominant at the All-Star game. Voyboy's mechanics just stick with Jace so well. Or even Nijackie, we were wondering what he's going to play. Jace has a lot of versatility here.
We'll have to see. We do have some commons picked up by the Vulcan squad here. That Rise going on to Mandatory Cloud, most likely. Xmithy onto Psycho Sip.
I actually think that's going to be a top lane Rise.
Oh, after Shy Rise.
I'm thinking it's going to be a top lane Rise. Since you can build a fair bit of armor on Rise against a Jason lane, I don't know how dangerous it is. I need to have more top lane experience and get more insights on these guys. But that's my early prediction for this.
Jackie hovering over his all-time favorite League of Legends champion, and Tristana, I think, is in that squad because they played that in the end of towards the end of the season in their fun game. We'll have to see what they got here. St. Vicious looking to lock in as well. May not choose his jungler, or he may. Not going to be a rough pick for them right here. They're not giving away too much.
No, the one thing they do know is that Vulcan is giving away their solo lanes right now. And with a Trundle pick for St. Vicious or Voyboy, we're actually not sure. In the pregame, we said it would be a top lane Trundle, but maybe it's something for St. Vicious in the jungle. I haven't seen him practicing it too much.
We've had a lot of not Saint lately, Nautilus. But as of late, we are on that 3-7, so it'll still work for him. Still has that W damage strong. Mandatory Cloud picking up Sona. the other support that Edward plays, not as much likes to, but plays a beautiful Sona as well as Caitlyn, so that lane getting a good amount of aggression.
And that is by far Bloodwater's favorite support. I'm actually a little bit surprised that it didn't get denied by anyone on Curse earlier on, because when you give Vulcan Sona, since Bloodwater is generally the one who calls the shots, their initiations are crisp, and it's much more than other supports can offer that team. So that is a very solid pickup for Vulcan as a team.
We'll see what Nijaki decides to choose. As they lock this in, looks like we've got pretty strong area of effect damage composition coming in here from Vulcan. Once they get it all finished out, it looks like a lot of poke that we'll have coming from these guys on Curse.
I'm wondering if they're going to try to run a poke comp here. The hard initiation right now for Vulcan is pretty much just the Rise Rune Prison, Crescendo, and Cannonball, but that's not to say those things can't be displaced.
Cannon is used to kind of negate poke comps, right? You flash
sometimes, yeah.
If you can get it enough to follow up, but there really isn't a follow-up for these guys yet.
And with the Zyra pick right now, this tells me Curse is going poke, which is really surprising. I've not seen Curse play poke. This means it would be a jungle St. Vicious, mid lane Lux, and then support Zyra for Edward, which is not something we've seen a lot of lately.
And they really have a great composition for that poke. That disengage from the Trundle wall as well. It's going to shut down that cannon. You're really going to have only him or Smithy making it into the fight when you start. So it's a great composition there. But on the other side as well, they can play safe. They have the disengage. I think we're going to see, just like game one, it's going to be really safe up until a certain point.
Now
going to swing it.
All going to be about whether Vulcan has enough engage to get at Curse, and if they do it decisively enough to not get poked down beforehand. It does look like I was wrong in the prediction. Kennen top lane to go against Jace, Rise mid lane to go against Nijaki. I feel like they could have swapped those however they wanted. And obviously, if the early game goes incredibly one way, it's going to be like that. It's going to be probably that team. But poke versus hard engage, really exciting games to watch and very tense.
This is going to be great, too, because we haven't seen St. Vicious on Trundle in I don't know how long the last time he played. Maybe when you did back in like IPL 3 or something.
Yeah, he used to play like Vamscepter start jungle Trundle in Season 1, and he'd go double golems. But it's been so long. Trundle's received that beautiful visual makeover, but he decided just to go for the Junkyard Trundle as well when we decided to get in this game.
Nice.
Man, there's so much hype going into this game. Edward playing Zyra as well is just not the Curse bot lane we'd expect to see right off the bat. It's like Zyra Ezreal. That's the passive disengage bottom lane, not the jump in your face thresh hook.
You never know. It's Edward. They could turn this. We're going to be like, okay, never mind. It's a kill bot.
All right, they're going to go kill against Caitlyn Sona, which is hard, by the way.
It will be. They don't have sustain. That's going to stick. We'll have to see what they're really running in runes once we get into the game. But we're into game 2 here. Rivington III and chat to bring you Vulcan versus Curse as we get it matched up. And remember, Cop and Edward, and now to bring up that duo lane for Curse.
And there was a lot of early game posturing in the Coast versus TSM game. I wonder if Curse and Vulcan are going to do similar things. Based on the pings that Curse has thrown out already, they're going to try to get a couple wards into Vulcan's jungle, while a couple of them are playing human wards as well, including St. Vicious and Nijaki.
Yes. Double lift taking notes on where St. Vicious is guarding the bush.
That is definitely something that happened at the All-Star game when Dyrus was caught by the thresh hook over the wall. What people didn't realize is because Doublelift wasn't scouting Tri-Brush for him, but none of that is important for this game as Vulcan's trying to do that delayed and fade.
Let's see what they do. They are just hanging on to the red brush right now. St. Vicious is going to make his way all the way out, so they know they're invaded here. Vulcan has strength in the jungle. Looks like they'll be able to do what they want with this, but they may not stay to take anything.
3 wards placed in the red side jungle of Curse is a huge investment for Vulcan to go into. They really care about vision of that area. We'll see how it ends up playing out because they conceded vision of their own red jungle, and they're actually expecting something similar.
These 3 early wards are the same wards that Korea plays down at All-Star Games.
Even the one over the double golem wall?
To explore over golems. Is that Explorer? It's not Explorer. It's a real word, but they usually use the Explorer there.
All right, so they just wanted... I think that'll tell you earlier where the bottom lane is going to be going so you can more adequately counter it if you're looking for or against a lane swap.
Absolutely. Let's see what they try to continuously do. Looks like Saint heads over towards his red. And, No.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not his red.
That's the Vulcan red.
That's the Vulcan red. All right, so Saint goes over to Vulcan red, I should say. I'm just kind of like scrolling the map, and I didn't realize on the other side.
You're like, wait a minute.
Go Riv.
You shouldn't be there, St. Vicious. What are you doing? And this will be interesting. I think they're just going to be ending up trading double buffs with each other. Since Vulcan has such control over Curse's red jungle, I feel like Curse is just conceding it.
There's the 2v1 mid. Bloodwater and Zuna going to try to pressure that one down. We'll see what happens. Looks like the Zyra pick is actually going to work out quite well against ManCloud. He gets that Rune Prison in. They're still going to be able to stay within range and get that damage in.
And based on what Xmithy is doing right here, he's on a collision course for St. Fishes. Xmithy has Smite, St. Fishes does not, so this looks like it could be a blue steal.
Saint's like, yeah, you're 1v1, let's do this. But here comes Bloodwater around the corner. You did not expect that. The power chords to be played. The Symphony, however, going in favor of St. Vicious here. He just pushes out Xmithy on that situation, knowing his skill set is better. Psycho Sid giving some aggression to Voyboy in the top lane. He's going to go ahead and take to the skies. He gets that E in. There's the stun onto Psycho Sid, or for Voyboy. And it looks like he may be able to proc one more. He tries to get on the range. The Ignite goes down. It may not be enough. One more tick. He gets it for first blood.
The very last tick gets Voyboy down. I thought for sure he was going to be able to get away. Psycho Sid with a level 3 Ignite coming through, giving him that extra little bit of Ignite damage. Catches Voyboy checking for blue help. Because of the 2v1 mid, I feel like Vulcan outmanned Curse there, and then Voyboy had no support coming from Psycho Sid, and then Psycho Sid just out-traded him with that Doran's Blade start. That is going to be a mountain Voyboy now has to climb in that top lane, losing a lot in that exchange.
That's not something you see every day. A level 2 Jace get taken down by a level 2 Kennen, which is now a level 4-2 discrepancy, as mid lane is needing help from the jungler here. St. Vicious going over to Nijaki.
And we need to track now how this bottom lane is doing for Curse, because they need to get some damage on this turret. Mandatory Cloud with 13 minion kills, not getting harassed and not taking turret damage means this Edward Cop bottom lane is not providing impact compared to what Zuna and Bloodwater are potentially doing to this mid lane.
And wow, Psycho Sid looking to keep the pressure on, goes to the 2 Dorans quickly with the boots to keep himself safe in any of those engages, because he is going to be playing aggressive. Zuna taking a bit of auto attack damage here, but they trade back even more in the mid lane. Everything going well right now for Vulcan.
And we'll see if Xmithy can pull off something here. A no-buff Sejuani is mainly just in this lane to leech experience. He's actually only here to maybe save a little bit of the tower. I don't think they could realistically go in for an aggressive fight, but I've been wrong before.
There's a little, there's a bit of safety. Whoa! Maybe they just wanted the poke there, and they got it. Even putting the ward down wasn't enough safety. They just kind of put him in that false sense of security.
Really nice route by Edward there, and I feel like Mandatory Cloud really just should have been waiting in his turret for these creeps to arrive, because that's how he's been surviving in this lane up until now. And because he took that poke, it means Xmithy has to stay here to prevent the 2v1 tower dive.
This is kind of one of those you're making it harder for me situations. He's going to try to get himself into a good spot, and it looks like, wow, they're actually going to play this from Bloodwater. He makes the call for himself to go down, throw some sustain to the lane, and then he'll meet back up in mid.
Might as well. It's a range and the bottom, and Zuna's doing completely fine in mid. Plus, Bloodwater wasn't really providing any extra harass on Nijaki, so they're just transitioning to Caitlyn mid. I can see this working out.
We'll have to see what they do. We have seen this happen, well, not happen before, but Caitlyn mid, been played before, I should say. 6 minutes into this one, we'll see how Curse reacts to this bit of a transition. It's going to be a dual lane in the bot now versus the duo lane with Zuna mid. Jackie trying to get some damage out, gets that auto attack. Zuna eats a turret. Looks like he may play this real safe and go back.
And Zuna really wants to get that mid lane turret, because I cannot stress enough how important it is to get that mid lane turret down. And even though, like, that's a very interesting choice by Bloodwater to go to the bottom lane at this juncture in the game, because if he stayed mid, I feel like Zuna and Bloodwater could get that turret on the next push, whereas now it's not nearly as guaranteed. I think that's why Xmithy is here, because they're trying to add extra presence, but I don't see them getting down this turret. Nijaki's able to keep those creeps low enough.
They got that siege pressure from Jackie. He's easily just clearing that out with Prismatic Barrier on. Xmithy is looking to cause trouble, though, looking to find St. Vicious, so that will allow Zuna to be more aggressive in mid.
And still no turrets necessarily pushed down. The lane phase was extended when Bloodwater decided to go bottom and essentially create standard lanes again, even though Ryze and Caitlyn are swapping like an AP duo for an AD duo lane.
I figured that would have been a fast move for ManCloud to have Sona go down, or for Daydream, wow, Bloodwater to go down. We got it. There's a list in my name. I just had to find the right
some
one.
roster swaps. It's understandable.
So still staying here, both level 5. He is 33 to 41, so even as the mid laner, he's not grabbing up the CS that Lux is in that 1v1.
Not necessarily, despite having the support helping him. I mean, 2v2 when you're constantly pushed is not as good as a 1v1 in the mid lane, where they're still trying to get down that turret. And I feel like St. Vicious is just trying to brute force this one down. There's no wave clear on Rise to be able to stop this. Chris getting his first turret.
So that turret, actually quite big, is going to help a little bit with Dragon pressure as well. If they can get damage down onto Zuna and Bloodwater even more. Zuna's actually quite hurt here in mid, so he may not be able to come down. He gets flashed on. He's going to live from this one, but that's going to be pressure and maybe what they need for Dragon, but they're going back. Never mind.
He was about one auto attack away from being able to take down there. Nijaki doing a admirable job holding that off, really pulling the lane almost back in his favor, only down about 16 minion kills to Zuna despite being 1v2 for quite a long time early on. And just the one turret for Curse trying to pull this one even. I need to keep track of that top lane though.
See, Voyboy 6 to Psycho Sid 7. That's 50 to 64 in CS. So all things considered, the kill there, it's only about 15 CS. So Jace is definitely going to have, I think, a bit bigger of an impact once we get to that late game point.
And I really have to commend Voyboy here because we haven't been paying attention to this lane. But after he died at level 2, coming back level 2 to 1 mismatch, knowing he's going up against a double Doran's Blade Psycho Sid on his return, and then keeping the minion kills close, not losing too much of his turret means he's been farming very well and smartly.
That bottom turret being taken down, both teams backing, and Curse still finds themselves in the position to take Dragon. St. Vicious taking a lot of damage here. Laser goes out, they get a good proc onto Xmithy. That's the main initiation for them to get into this fight. Zuna just trying to throw out some damage. They get out of this one with a few scratches. Saint makes it out.
The minions did end up taking the mid lane for Vulcan as well, but that fight was really prevented by Nijaki landing a great light binding onto Xmithy, and because Xmithy didn't have his Sejuani ultimate up quite yet to make a good initiation. If Jackie doesn't land that bind, I feel like Curse loses multiple people in a fight, but because he landed it, they got the Dragon unharmed.
Jace backing in the top lane. The tier stacked up, 192, still quite far away, and it actually just purchased up here at 9 minutes on to ManCloud. He's only got 24 on it, so they're looking to get that little bit of kind of extra gold as they charge it up for themselves, more so for ManCloud right now.
That's blue control, though, for Vulcan. They've gotten their own blue and also curses. It means the Nijaki will not be able to super easily clear waves. And it means that since they had the blue control, Psycho Sid felt safe about farming this top lane a little while longer and was able to finish off that top turret.
Vulcan finding a little bit of global pressure here onto Curse. At 10 minutes into the game, they find 2 turrets to the 1, but that's going to be top and mid. They have a lot more global pressure than Curse is finding with that bottom turret for the dual lanes now down. The global gold lead, only 600, so it's still within grasp of anybody here. As we look at the items, actually a fast pickaxe for Zuna here.
And from a pacing perspective as well, this is a fair bit like the TSM versus Coast game we just saw. Substantially different picks, substantially different strategies, but not much fighting. These guys are still kind of feeling each other out. It's been a while since they've been in competition since the first season, and I think later on in the day or even later on in Super Week, we'll start seeing the early game brawls because these guys are taking it pretty slow right now.
And with Kenna with 2 Dorans, works it pretty well on a turret, but you think with the amount of AP that they have, they wouldn't be hitting turrets as hard. You think the Jace, the Ez team coming in would be able to take it down, but Vulcans found themselves more turrets so far. The lane pressure as well is being forced by Curse, but it has to be in the 2v1 lanes. Every time the ultimate just missing, but it does force the barrier.
A slight lack of coordination, actually. Once you land the light binding, you can kind of sync the Lux and Ezreal ultimates up if you want to, but because Cops was a little bit delayed, I feel like it allowed Bloodwater's heal to get in and give him the extra resist for that, but it still pushes Zuna back from the turret and allows Curse to get a bit of a siege on, but they decide to back away as well because they may have found a mandatory cloud. No. They're just disengaging all over the place. They did not. He
floats away. Looks like he will be safe. And this is kind of what I was talking about just a second ago. Where is the Curse team that is going to drop the turrets with the AD that they have? Looks like they bring it to the table now, but they don't have the minion wave to continue. Mandatory Cloud walks back in from the side to get the side flank again, but he is seen by a pink ward.
And to reiterate, this is a Curse poke composition. They do not necessarily want to take straight up 5v5s. They only want to fight if they get a Lux light binding that can kill someone, or if they diminish the enemy's health far enough down that they could get a safe initiation, because the champions that Curse has picked are not great in brawl scenarios. They definitely have to get damage down before fights start.
Pretty low farm game for these teams. We've seen a lot of rotating going around. 70s for the mids after 12 minutes into the game. Usually you see it hovering around 100. Mandatory Cloud, good damage from each other on Comp and ManCloud in the bottom lane. It looks like we're going to get St. Vicious coming up from the side here. He will be going down to the ManCloud. The Rune Prison goes on to Cloud. He knows Cop can just get closer. Going to try to do the damage that he can put out before going down. but Cop able to pick himself up. The first kill for Curse.
Yeah, Mandatory Cloud was already a little squishy. Once he gets Trundle ulted, his resist just gets shredded. And even though Cop just has that Lizard Elder, he fell real fast. Cop also picked up the blue buff off of that kill, so that will really help his blue Ezreal build as he continues on in this game.
So we see somewhat of a mistake being made here. The pressure of Vulcan in middle was acted on by Curse. They knew that there was one alone. They took him out. If they keep doing that, they're definitely going to edge themselves way ahead of Vulcan. And Curse is a team to do that. Just patiently wait and take you out when you're at your weakest.
And the first blood is a little bit forgotten at this point, since it is 2 turrets to 1 for Vulcan, but the Dragon went to Curse, and the gold is straight up even again. It's only that 22 minion kill advantage that Psycho Sid's put on Curse right now, and until Psycho Sid converts that to a bit of team fight prowess, it doesn't really matter because Voyboy's poke is not hindered by getting that first death.
Voyboy doing a very good job in that top lane. Like we said, he's still going to be that formidable opponent later. Haunting guys coming out onto Kennen. So even if this were to be that poke comp, he's not going for the Seeker's arm guard. They're going to have to throw themselves into the fight if they don't have Xmithie there for the initiation. And it's almost like the counter like of Volibear as well. Lux is good against those gap closing counters to start a fight.
And we know that against Sejuani, highly mobile teams can do fairly well.
Right.
But also for Sejuani, teams that can follow up on initiation are potent. So a lot of it just has to do with whether Vulcan chains their crowd control right when they're engaging on Curse, or whether Curse can stay kind of spread out enough while they're poking to not all get hit at once. I think those will be the key things in this game, since it is approaching Tower Siege teamfight mode while still quite close.
All right, so 14 minutes in here, taking a look at the mini-map, the consideration in ward coverage. Looks like Vulcan just trying to keep themselves on entry exits. They do have that Wraith ward down just for a original, or not original, but a regular ward to keep safety from any ganks towards the mid lane. They're not really piling up either, not going for any pressure. It's kind of that lull.
And that ward that St. Vicious just placed is one of 2 wards I feel that Curse has on the entire map. Most of the ward control is in the favor of Vulcan, but Curse doesn't necessarily care about that because they say we're going for a dragon right now, which could actually be kind of dangerous for a poke comp, cornering yourself at a dragon. They also know Vulcan has 2 people pushing towers at the bottom lane, so these are some very strange things happening right now, really.
So everybody playing a little reactionary here. They go for Mandatory Cloud in the bottom lane. He walks it out. They may grab this top turret. So once again, teams trading. Can Voyboy get there in time to stop this? Looks like that next wave coming in gives them enough pressure to put that down. So it's going to be turret for Dragon as they go again back and forth, and they tie up the turrets on this, or actually get 3 turrets to 1 on this one.
Surprisingly, I feel like that was actually better for Curse despite losing that turret. I don't think Curse is going to be giving up that inhibitor turret, and that second tier top lane turret doesn't matter for them yet, since Curse's main objective later is going to be getting towers back. The Dragon Gold is something that's forever, whereas Tower Gold can kind of be traded in a strange way, since I don't think Curse will give up that much map control for losing that turret, based on their poke comp.
Map control and just ability to fight. If you think about the composition of Trundle, Jace, and Lux pinched into the entry of a base, they have perfect siege there, so you're right. They're not worried about the inhibitor.
And Psycho Sid is planning a bit of a sneak attack here while Curse tries to siege up. Kennen is behind Curse right now, and they might try hard initiation.
Here he comes. He's a flippin' ninja, but it doesn't look like he's going to go in just yet. He activates the E. He goes in, but he gets knocked out, and it pretty much negates the entire ult. They find 1 kill onto Cop. That's going to be perfect for getting the kite out of the way. Edward throws out a very nice ult. They may be able to capitalize. Crescendo coming in from Bloodwater. It hits them all up. Xmithie puts himself into the frying pan to get burned up, but his team is able to capitalize on this. Edward looks for the kill, but Psycho Sid dodges. The auto attacks may not be enough. The passive to come up, and he misses the shot. Jackie gets out with 100 HP.
4-4-1. The sneak attack flippin' ninja Psycho Sid initiated that fight. He's now 4-0-1. We talked about him capitalizing on his first blood extra gold to create a good team fight, and now Kennen's going to be turning into a real monster. That was very clean by Vulcan getting in there, and they cleaned up. Curse cannot get snuck up on like that in the future.
What? Whoa.
Nice little dodge there.
Kind of get that re-hemmed there. A little bit of burn on Bloodwater's dress. 5-2 at 17 minutes into the game. A 2,000 gold lead going in favor of Vulcan. And really coming into that fight, Psycho Sid doesn't have very many items, but he is making an impact.
A lot of it has to do with his experience. He was level 11 in that team fight, so he had 2 ranks in his ultimate Slicing Maelstrom. And even though it only hit Cop, it got a very important instrument of that poke comp for Curse out of the way. And even though I had just gotten off a spiel about that second-tier turret not mattering that much for Curse, that's the whole reason Psycho Skid was able to sneak up behind them, because the map control in that area of the map wasn't there.
It plays in very different ways. Jat, Mandatory Cloud now with a bit of hold here. He's going to get a cooldown on those spells. Looks like he may not get ulted just yet. No, Saint does throw that off. Looks like he may not be able to get out of this one. Xmithy just on the side. Cop there to help him, but Cop, watch out. Xmithy could have you. Xmithy's ultimate is just about to come back up. Cop needs to be very careful here. They may choose to go on this. They do not, though. They just play it for the 1 kill.
Not sure what St. Fishes was doing all the way up there, but Vulcan definitely chased him down, picked up yet another kill. Now they may be able to siege a little bit of turret, but I think Vulcan's actually going to be taking this opportunity to keep the side lanes pushed. If they can keep the poke comp contained to their own base, they don't have to worry about losing turrets.
See what Zuna can do at 147 CS. A few over right now, but he does have the Infinity Edge completed. He's looking to grab up more CS, create pressure in the lanes, and get that attack speed. He will be tremendous in the fights upcoming. But right now, if his team can push 4v3, they are going to do it.
And Cop doesn't have the blue Ezreal items he needs yet. In order to be the poke Ezreal, he's going to have to get those Iceborne Gauntlets, but Vulcan's kept the pressure on, and Cobb has not been able to farm up 139 minion kills, 18.5 minutes, plus just the 1 kill is not going to generate the type of gold flow that Curse needs.
And something that's commonly said is, blue Ezreal build can be huge. It can really wreak havoc. But if you don't follow and you're not even with the game as it goes, falling behind becomes a huge factor in its damage.
Yeah, it was actually Cloud Templar was doing some guest commentary at the All-Star game for the OGN stream, and he was mentioning how it is a good build, but you have to be ahead in order for it to work, because the gold threshold until you get the items that make it tick is so high. It's like 7,000 or 8,000 gold before you even become fully effective, and Cop has just not reached that point yet.
He's about 900 gold off, but right now you have to consider he's by himself. He's going to farm that lane, but when he can't, everybody in that group is farming it unless they are completely giving it to him. And at this point, they may just be doing that. See, his charge is now up to 384, so that's even quite a ways off. 400 as Tear of the Goddess was bought. About 100 charges after, and Man Clouds is already above.
Yeah, and 750 for Voyboy, because he's got that big Muramana already transformed, so maybe Voyboy can turn some fights with that. Well, Jace has a little bit of an edge.
On
the 3.7 patch, you can just ult and get tier stacks. That's changed in the 3.8 patch, so Voyboy better cherish this early transform Muramana.
Let's see what he uses it for. He's going to head to the top lane, try to stop Psycho Sid on this free farm as well. He's still got about 30 on that, but 5-0-1, something we haven't really touched on for Psycho Sid.
Yeah.
He has bought his items, and he went haunting guys straight in to that Seeker's Arm Guard and then into the Zanya's. That's the needlessly large rod. So he's actually only about 600 gold off.
He's doing lots of damage on Kennen right now. I gotta say, even with the home guard boots, it's just his ability to try to keep the map pressure up. And St. Fidges and Voy are actually trying to two-man him up top. We'll see if Vulcan tries to turn something around elsewhere, as I don't think the St. Voyboy gank has any chance of working on Psycho Sid.
He eat from so far away. He's like, I don't even want to hear what you guys have to say. 20 minutes into this one, super safe play. Vulcan knows that Curse can make the plays happen to switch this game around. They may feel comfortable, but they know they can't get complacent.
And surprisingly, Psycho Sid's actually conceding the turret to Voyboy and St. Vicious. He is giving respect to the Trundle ultimate plus the Muramana Jace. And it turns out that was probably a good play for Curse, but they're giving up a lot of turret damage down bottom as well. This is just a turret trade, so I don't know who to give that to.
With Kennen speed in mid lane too, he's going to be able to push that down. They're going to be able to just transfer over to mid lane, seeing those guys top. Maybe they'll back. Yeah, they're actually absolutely going to back it.
So Curse keeping the pressure on Vulcan. Vulcan having to back away. No one from Curse able to really get them out of this. And I believe there's also a Dragon being taken at the same time. So just huge amounts of gold is flowing into both teams right now as they trade big money objectives. 975 for Dragons, 750 for turrets across the map. And Psycho Sid getting fed up and going in.
He goes in because he bought the Zanyas. If he had it for the top lane second tier turret, he probably would have done so. He forces flash on that. I think he potted up for that as well, but he used everything for that engagement. And the reason that a poke comp can be beat is by that flashing cannon. We were talking about that earlier, so it's all on Xmithy now for this next fight.
And this actually tells me that Curse is going to go straight back to base and then go right up the mid lane because they don't have to worry about Psycho Sid's ultimate for another 80 seconds. The flash for another 5 minutes. this could be a point where Curse tries to pull themselves a little bit back in the game, being down 3,000 gold and really hoping Comp gets to that Iceborne Gauntlet fairly quickly.
A very low kill score coming into this one, just like last game, 6-2. 3,000 gold in the lead is Vulcan, and they've held that lead quite accordingly, 600, and then scaled that up to the now 3,000. 23 minutes in, we'll see Edward with that Oracles trying to continuously give his team that map coverage. They are just clearing areas with spells and then Oracles and then spells.
One way Vulcan is trying to avoid the poke siege right now is by keeping pressure in mid lane. And Saint, look out, man, you're in mid lane again.
Saint just dives right into a group of people, force the flash of their Q, and then the ace in the hole coming from Zuna. They're able to take him down the second time Saint has been caught out.
And I think that's the last 2 kills Vulcan has picked up as well, have just been on St. Fishes. And since they were already clearing around the Baron buff with an Oracles, which has now expired, they can't guarantee vision control here. And no St. Fishes means no Smite Steal, but it could also be a 4v5. There's the initiation!
They go in very hard. They get 3 with that. Can they get the Permafrost down? It's going to be a bit slow, but Nightjackie stays in. Cop gets the True Shot barrage from downtown, and it looks like that may turn the fight for them. Man Cloud low. Zuna can only take a few more shots, and it looks like they are forced back. The Baron has been stopped. Curse comes out on top of that one. What can they do with it?
That was real scary for Vulcan. They walked straight into a perfect counter initiation. They lined up for Nightjackie, Edward, and Cop. Plus, I believe the Shock Blast from Voyboy just about killed all of them at once. And that was without the Voyboy, so that is scary for Vulcan as far as poke comps and trying to initiate go in, because they can't do it in tight corners like that, even though they hadn't been poked down previously by Curse.
You can see they're pinging this again. They have a highway of wards just curving around that entry for Baron, and then one for the blue entry as well. Cop going ahead, taking blue, taking that advantage away from Mandatory Cloud. He will not be able to machine gun Rise as well. When we look around the board, not too many more buys have come in. So the fact that Vulcan is kind of stuck here means they're not really getting the income they were before, and they're going to have to make do with the items now as Curse is starting to ramp up.
And something Curse did a tremendous job with last season was coming back in games. They were down in so many games, and they were able to stretch, and a lot of their identity was just that they stuck with games that could come back. They pick late game compositions and then transition well, and maybe they're doing this again in this one because it hasn't been looking good. Even with the St. Fishes getting picked off a couple times, was looking grimmer and grimmer, but that last fight turn has got to get Vulcan thinking.
Like we said, Jack, Curse, more than happy to kind of leave that inhibitor turret up because of the siege protection they get from Jace, they get from Lux, being able to just pretty much have those two protect a turret versus any amount of champions. They can make small moves when they need and wait for really Vulcan, like I said, to push up out of their comfort zone. At 25 minutes in, the wards are everywhere now. It's pretty much just wards. They're ward fighting.
Yeah, and in that last 4v5 that Vulcan had as well, we do got to remember Psycho Sid's Cannon Ultimate wasn't there, so the most the most dangerous man on Vulcan right now couldn't even really participate in that fight, which is one of the reasons the 4v5 worked for Curse. There's a lot of posturing around that Baron, and Vulcan's got to be careful how much they get themselves caught in here or how much they try to poke around Baron, because a poke comp actually wants to get you trapped with your back against the wall so they can just poke, 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 disengage, and it's what they're trying to do with this turret. Yet Psycho Sid, I swear this happened 10 minutes ago, is pushing that side lane, and they got to worry about him coming up from behind.
So they may lose an inhibitor for a second-tier turret here. It looks like they're going to try to fight this, and you can see the siege clear is also good for siege pressure. They just wipe the minion waves out, try to get some damage on the turret. The next poke will be one to take down the turret, but it's going to be a possible trade as Kennen has good attack speed.
And Curse has got to get back to base right now. This is a split push to counter the poke that Vulcan is trying to do. Psycho Sid is not stopping this push. That turret getting very low. Voyboy is the sole person going back to defend, and it means Vulcan has completely repelled that mid lane push.
Psycho Sid getting out of that situation. He's got a shuriken prep to make sure it's a safe exit for himself, and Curse able to hold this off in mid as well. So the reactionary on that one is and didn't take down the mid turret.
And Curse has to be very careful because they know what happens when Kennen sneaks through their own jungle. Curse has better ward coverage behind them. This time, it's strange to think they have to ward behind themselves to push mid lane, but that's what they're doing right now. And Voyboy also has to be careful since he's been soloed by Psycho Sid before.
They have wards absolutely everywhere. It looks like they're going to once again catch that vision of Psycho Sid as he moves through, but the team is starting to pressure. They have to read this
nice
here.
Catch.
They telegraph this one in. It's going to be the light binding. Oh, just dodging The gap closer is the gap escaper on that one for Sejuani, and Xmithy keeps himself alive. It looks like the turret will go down. St. Vicious and crew find themselves backing up here to pick up some experience in the jungle.
And these poke games get a little bit tense from time to time because it's all about that one light binding. A really tiny one-man advantage could mean multiple turrets and maybe an inhibitor for Curse. There's a constant chess match going on right now between Psycho Sid and Voyboy trying to get split push in while the team isn't there. It's actually pretty good by Vulcan that they're keeping the main poker down, but they keep getting caught by those light bindings, and look at that poke, plus a ton of damage on the turret.
Oh, Edward getting caught up. He gets permafrosted down. That's going to be Kennen flashing in. Psycho City waited 5 minutes, and he waited so long to do that. Oh, it's unfortunate that that happened just now. A great disengage from Curse. They did lose Edward, though.
I think they're okay with that. Voyboy got a little bit caught out there, but as long as Vulcan can't re-engage, they can't re-engage based off all this poke that Curse is throwing at them. They got most of that turret, and the gold is looking closer and closer to even for Curse.
And it's kind of like that, whoa, what just happened? And it was the point we were just talking about where there hasn't been the super amount of income. It's been a Giants belt, which means 1,000 gold has come in since that Zanyos was bought by Psycho Sid, which means the rest of the team has been feeling that. The Muramana has been finished on Ez. The Iceborne Gauntlet, last time we looked, that was just the Elder Lizard. These guys are now back in control.
Plus, everyone on Curse had about 1,600 gold before this last shopping trip. So you look at the items they bought now, and they're really starting to power up. Voyboy's almost at that Bloodthirster. The Rabadon's death cap was completed for Nijaki. There's almost a Last Whisper on Cop, which is going to be huge for him. That's like the last big component for that Blue Ezreal build to really come into its own. And since the poke combos from Nijaki were almost killing before the death cap, and a huge amount of magic resistance has not been completed on Vulcan since that last moment, it could be scare moment time for Vulcan here, and actually forcing Vulcan to make something happen.
And Curse using everything they have under their belt to just push these lanes, make sure they have full control of every situation, even if only for a few seconds, to posture up and figure out what's going down. More wards being placed down in mid, just for absolute vision. They want to know every step that's happening.
And the folly that Curse cannot fall into here is if they corner themselves against Baron. That would allow Vulcan to initiate on them, and even though they have strong ward control over Baron, they can't go for that objective. Curse needs to continue doing what they're doing here, poking at a turret and disengaging if Vulcan tries to come for them.
Psycho Sid forced to back now, coming in with his team on that home guard rush. Looks like he will just be on the backside, not doing too much. The Bulwark finished up onto St. Vicious is superbly going to help with the ultimate coming in from Kennen, slicing Maelstrom. Looking out at other items, Rabadon's and Athene, so Lux is just going full glass cannon this game. Jackie looking just throw out lasers all the time.
And I think Curse is disengaging a little bit just to push out some of their lanes. Vulcan trying to stay a little bit grouped up, but you know, the turrets were like 6-4 or 6-3 a little while ago, and Curse has just taken turret after turret here. Vulcan's got to make their answer, and quickly, as they have an Oracle's on Bloodwater, and they're trying a hard push up mid here. While Curse is a little bit scattered, this might be a point where it has to work, but they can't get caught out like that!
That's going to be 75% of the HP off of Bloodwater, but he says, I still have Crescendo. We may still be able to get engaged and get the bait off. Whoa, Nijaki going down in an instant. They're going to have this turret in their eyes. Xmithy quite tanky. Bloodwater again dodging by inches of True Shot Barrage. They're getting good heal on. He's back up to half HP. They're going to pressure.
And they still have their main initiation ultimates. Here they go.
There's a Crescendo going in. The slicing Maelstrom on 1-2, but he can't get out that much. He's slowed by the Iceborne Gauntlet. They try to get him for another kill. Xmithy goes down. Now they start to trade. The 1-for-1. Actually, Voyboy has gone down as well, so it's the 2-for-2. There goes Bloodwater. Bloodwater falls to the hands of Cop, but Cop goes down as well. Edward falls. It's only going to be Trundle, and St. Vicious goes down to the ground. The inhibitor's open for taking.
Vulcan turns it for an ace. Cop got a little bit too far ahead, going with a bit of naked aggression there. No real defensive capabilities. Zuna and Mandatory Cloud sliced through their backline and cleaned up the inhibitor after the ace.
You have to consider how much pressure can you put on a fight when one of your biggest damage dealers just got obliterated. Nijaki didn't even get to see any more damage, and then Bloodwater didn't get hit after that initial burst.
And we kept talking about trying to find that window, and while it seemed like a good idea for Nijaki to stop and land that full combo on Bloodwater for 75% of his health, it revealed his position, and Vulcan realized that Curse was already scattered, which I think allowed Mandatory Cloud to get the Flash Rune Prison is how that started, and just explode Nijaki, because there was nothing Curse could do to punish him for that move. Great play by Vulcan, and that's the move they kind of needed. Let's see if they can close from there.
Quickly being bought up, the Spirit Vision's coming into the hands of Mandatory Cloud. The Rylas now coming out onto Psycho Sid. His ultimate's going to be a bit more effective. As we said, this comp is a poke comp, but they also have really good disengage and movement from that Jace.
As you need in the poke comps a lot of times. You can't just sit back and poke if you can't avoid someone from initiating on you. And that's what they haven't avoided the best here in this Vulcan game, seeing as they fell victim to 13 kills from Vulcan. There's the Sejuani ultimate, wide right. And that's a lot of initiation down for them as they try to force around this Baron. That is Vulcan. You can see tensions are running high. There was really nobody that can gap close besides Kennen along with Sejuani over a wall. That was still a very extended fight, and they could have still got on even with the hit on the ultimate. There's 80 seconds left on that Sejuani ultimate before it's back up again. I wonder if Curse is going to have a higher sense of confidence now that that's there, but they are down an inhibitor, which means the side lane minions all have 100 extra health, and that is most important in that bottom lane where there are about 15 minions pushing. Curse is going to have to go back as Vulcan tries to stop them from doing so. A good poke going out. Not as much poke as you think you would really see from a Jace coming in here. He has the Brutalizer, but he does not have a Last Whisper on him, and it's really been a halt in items for everybody here. It's going to be about the fight and what they've so far brought to the table. 33 minutes in, a lot of positioning going on here. St. Vicious gets caught for a bit of damage. Shielded off by Nijaki as they just kind of go toe-to-toe here in middle. And Nijaki's a little bit low on mana if they're going to have an extended fight here. He's down to 300 mana of his 1,000. That's pretty much enough for one Lux combo, which would give Vulcan a lot of confidence to maybe go for a Baron here. An 8-0-3 Psycho Sid. It's unsure how he has not died yet. He's participated in quite a few. There's 11 participations by him, 13 kills. The True Shot Barrage goes out. Down. That is going to go down. There it is. It's going to be the takedown for McSmithy. Will they turn on the fight? They have great vision of what's going on, but the Oracles just keeping them safe. They knew they were standing in wards. They just had to keep distance. Really strong vision control from Vulcan there, and good skepticism by Curse as well. Like, that was just playing the game properly for Vulcan, knowing that Curse could not safely check those rushes coming through, and now knowing that Curse has to go back to base, they may take up a second inhibitor of the game. We only have 2 home guards being spit out here by Curse. He's going to be able to get Nijaki in there, but the binding goes on to minions. They just get a bit of siege clear there with the lasers, and it looks like they're going to start backing up here. St. Vicious and crew to guard the base. Looks like they're just taking a bit of poke here. It's not really doing too much damage, though. We got to remember, Vulcan is the team that beat Curse in the 3rd, 4th place game at the end of last split, so they have a track record already of beating this team, even though it was before the acquisition of Edward, and they're looking to close out this one with the Baron buff, with 2 or 3 inhibitors down, and with a catch over the wall. A team that's really good with momentum, or really remembers the momentum right now. Vulcan trying to pressure their way in. They do have a siege minion wave that gets siege down. Huge burst there. It's going to be the Thunder Pillar going out. There's no escape, so it's Vulcan all in. They try to take the fight there. Cop is getting taken down. Frozen up, permafrosted, and surged out. One more hit, and he goes down. There is the gap closer. A flash out coming from McSmithy. They have control of the bottom half of the base, the top half of the base, and the middle. It's all theirs, and possibly the game if they don't play the safe. They could die, though. 30 to 40 second death timers all across Curse now. xMithy the only one to fall for Vulcan. They may take it slower. They may go hard for the win. Oh, that pillar. That's what I'm talking about. You got to play it super safe. There's still 2 turrets there. Here comes Edward throwing down the crowd control. Good dodge coming from Psycho Sid. St. Vicious just trying to clear the minions out. They throw it on the Wild Growth. The good pop up there. Where's the initiation from the team? Boy on the backside does not want to get into hammer form and put himself in. They take down the second turret, Chad. It's going to be the Nexus. Vulcan continues their win streak versus Curse. The second game of opening week Summer Split. They initiated on the poke comp. Curse's Gambit didn't work out in this one. And man, 36 minutes felt longer than that because poke compositions are very, very tense to play against. If Curse could have ever gotten the upper hand and sieged down an inhibitor, that would have been it. But Vulcan just found the right initiations, particularly that one on a Nijaki down near Curse's inhibitor really swung that. It's got to feel good for Vulcan to start this season with a win. That definitely different play from both teams. Curse a lot more in the area of feeling out what's going to happen instead of trying to make their own moves. Like I said, Nijaki at that one point tried to, and then they realized, oh man, that was a bad idea. But Vulcan also got in that mindset for a little while as well. Once they didn't take Baron, they got scared away from it. They didn't feel like they could do anything for a while, and it almost hurt them a lot. And then Vulcan recognized the moments in the game where they had to act, and then their moments worked out for them. They didn't get lulled to sleep like Curse did to a lot of teams that they came back on earlier in the first split. You know, Vulcan was an inexperienced team last split. Now, half a split, like a split under their belt, third place finish. They could be coming into this one with a lot of confidence.
And an absolutely great play by Vulcan altogether. He replay of a quad kill in mid, not a quadra kill, but they get 4 kills.
Yeah, and this was a very big fight because this is the sneak attack by Kennen. He came in from behind them, and even though this Kennen ultimate didn't crush everyone, it got the stun onto Cop, which was enough damage to finish him off. And then once Curse lost that, they didn't have enough follow-up. They burned the Zara ultimate on one, and then the rest of Vulcan came through. That was great timing by Bloodwater. After the Stranglethorns from Zara came up, that's when he landed the crescendo and allowed Zuna to really just walk in, no tank line. And of course, Edward got real sad when he couldn't finish off Psycho Sid there as well.
You gotta remember that Psycho Sid, I believe, no, he did not. 9-0 and 5 at the end of the game. So at that point in time, he was lacing up his shoes and he was running real quick. Edward was looking for his carry lol kill.
And I mean, we can't take this too heavily because Edward is very new to Curse.
Absolutely.
Remember this. He did not look the best in that game. He definitely needs time to gel with his new team. But Vulcan cannot take anything away from them. They look great.
A very, very well-played game by Vulcan that shows that they are a team of momentum. Like I said, remembers the momentum that they had and remembered that they could very well beat Curse. So coming up, Vulcan Psycho Sid will join us to talk about their huge opening day win. And then Curse's Edward and Liquid will be in the interview lounge to talk about their new team comp. Plus, we head to the Rift for our third game of the day when Dignitas takes on Cloud9. Opening day of the LCS Summer Split. We'll be right back. Stick around.